Hi, everyone, and welcome to the HESI Prep workshop from the Community College of Rhode Island Student Success Center. My name is Ed Derosier, and I'll be your instructor for this workshop today. So this is kind of a unique experience for me. Normally, we're used to doing things in person. Obviously, in 2020, COVID has made, in 2021, COVID has made it necessary for us to work remotely and to offer things in new ways. So I'm excited to be with you today. So we're kind of going to go over some basic information about the HESI. This is geared towards nursing students, but there are other people who take the HESI as well. So again, anybody is welcome to join in. It's also could be a good refresher for some people taking other tests as well in math. I know in the past people have used that for that purpose as well. So that being said, let's begin. So I'm going to share my screen so you can see what I see. Okay, so first thing that you want to know about the HESI is make sure that you check out the guidelines. So because every semester, guidelines for the nursing program change. I find the easiest way to do that is to go to the CCRI website, and you can search for nursing, and you should get the result for the nursing department pretty quickly. Okay. And on there, you will find the requirements for whatever semester we are in. Okay. Nursing requirements change, year after year, semester after semester. So it is a good idea to always make sure we know what we have to do to apply to the program. Okay. Right now, the HESI is one of those requirements. And I believe the requirement for the score is they would prefer an 80 as a minimum score. But again, it counts towards a point system. And so they pair that with all the other points from your other things, such as your GPA, your grades in certain classes, your CNA license, etc. Okay, so there's not, it's not a hard and fast rule that you have to have a specific score, but you do want to make sure you check the requirements every semester just to make sure. Okay, so again, you can go to ccri.edu, search for nursing, you'll find that information. Okay. So just some general information about the HESI. I have this cheat sheet here that I wrote. Generally, the HESI is short for the Health Education System Incorporated. That's the company that makes the test. Okay, it is a specific test. It's multi-part. It's web-based. It's proctored and scored. Okay, it has 9 parts. CCRI only requires 4 parts. Okay, for its nursing program at this time. Okay, so math, reading comprehension, vocabulary, and grammar. Okay, so if you get some of the books that are out there or some of the websites, you'll notice that there are lots of other sections: biology, chemistry, physics. CCRI doesn't require any of those. Okay, CCRI only requires math, reading comprehension, vocabulary, and grammar. Okay, our workshop today is going to focus on the math section because that tends to be the one people have a little bit of anxiety about. Math anxiety is a pretty common thing. It's nothing to be afraid of. It's math that you've seen before. Okay, a couple other things about the test itself. You have up to 4 hours to complete the test. Now, that's what the website says. When you actually get to the testing center itself, they may, if you stay longer than 4 hours, they don't throw you out generally. Okay. But the website does say you have 4 hours to complete. You should plan to have that much time, when you schedule yourself. So don't schedule yourself for a test at 10 and then say, I got to go to work at 12. That's not going to work, right? You have to make sure you schedule enough time so that you can take all the sections of the test. Okay. Most people don't take very long. You have 55 questions in every section. So you figure if you do about 1 minute per question, it's about it could take 4 hours for some folks. Okay. Other people will be done faster. Everybody has a different speed at which they work. So, that's just, you want to make sure that you schedule yourself enough time to do it. Okay. And pace yourself well. And we're going to talk more about that in a moment. Okay. So every section, like I said, has 55 questions. So you can see here, right? 50 of the questions are scored and 5 are unscored. They're experimental questions. You won't know which are which. Okay, so if there's 50 questions, that means they're worth 2 points apiece. Okay, so when you get your grade, if you get an 80, that means you got 40 questions right. Right, if you got a 70, that means you got 35 questions right. Okay, so the other thing is test takers can choose which order to take the sections. So a really important thing is you want to think about that before you take the test. Okay. So, you want to think, do I want to take math first? Do I want to take math last? Do I want to take reading first? Do I want to take reading last? Thinking about that and knowing how you are as a test taker and as an individual, what your preferences are, and where do you need to spend your best energy, that's how you should make that decision. I think for a lot of people, they want to do math first, because it's, get the hardest one out of the way. Or some people want to do math last because if they get discouraged in math, they might get discouraged in the other sections as well. So people have different motivations for taking things in different order. Okay. The other thing too is most questions are multiple choice. Okay. Most, not all. So there are some questions in the actual test that you have to type in the answer. Okay. So it's a box where you type in the answer. When you type in the answers, you just put the numbers. You don't put units or anything like that. No sentences, no words, just numbers. Okay. Just be mindful of that as well. Some, students may not go back to previous questions. Okay. This to me is one of the most frustrating things about the HESI. Because I like to jump around. If I don't know something, I skip it and come back. You can't really do that on the HESI at all. Okay. You have to take the question, answer it, and move on. Okay. So it's worth your while, okay, to take your time, be confident in your answer, choose your answer, and then move on, because you can't go back. Okay. So that's one of my biggest tips is, once and done. Okay. Reread the question, make sure you're answering what the question actually asks. Okay. Check your answers if you can, and choose your answer, and make sure you select the right one and move on. Okay. It is important, that you answer the question they ask. Okay. A lot of word problems, which is what most of the HESI is, right? Because that's, complex questions with words are what most people have to do in their daily lives, right? You're not going to just have numbers to add or subtract in your life. You're going to have a complex situation. So this test is mimicking that. Okay. Why is it required? It's part of a larger set of assessments. It's to help separate, students that have similar backgrounds, similar, GPAs, course backgrounds. How do you choose one student and not another? This is one tool that the nursing department uses, okay, to differentiate between candidates. All right. Another thing here, unanswered questions. If you skip a question, it will be marked wrong. So you want to make sure that you answer all the questions. If you really have no idea, and we'll talk about guessing a little bit, but if you have no idea, it's perfectly fine to guess. Okay. Pick your favorite letter and go with it. I like the letter C because C is for the word correct, right? So C for correct. Again, you pick yours. I had a student years ago. She said, I'm going to choose A for every question I don't know because my name's Amy. Good for her, right? So it happens. Okay, so if you don't know, you want to make sure that you guess. Try to eliminate choices that are obviously wrong. Most multiple choice questions have obviously wrong answers. Okay, so you want to try to eliminate those. So for example, if the question is like, how tall or how much does the baby weigh? And one of the answers is 105 pounds. Well, babies don't weigh 105 pounds, right? So that one's obviously wrong, right? Maybe it's 10.5 pounds. Could be, okay? So, you want to eliminate ridiculous answers, okay? And also if two answers are exactly the same, they both can't be right? So obviously that would be wrong too. So like if you have multiple choice, it's 0.5 and then 0.5. Well, those are exactly the same, right? So neither of those can be right, okay? Another thing too is there are study books and apps available, okay? For me, for math, any book is fine that you use, any app that you use for math is fine. Some are better than others, but if you're using it, that's what counts more than anything. Math, you have to put the time in. If it's been 5 or 10 or 20 years since you've taken a math class, and you're out of practice, it might take you longer to prepare for that than maybe for the English section. That's fine. I do encourage you to do some preparation. I mean, obviously you're watching the video here, you're taking the workshop with me, so that counts as some preparation, but it would be helpful to prepare for a week or two, or 3, to try to, make sure you're in the groove of doing some math work. Okay. Because math is a particular skill, and if you don't practice it, you might forget how to do certain things. When's the last time you had to add or subtract fractions, right? So that might be something you want to review. Okay. The good news is there are, again, lots of books and apps out there. Don't buy an app or a book that you're not going to use, right? Only buy things you're going to use. Okay. Check out the library too, because the library does have lots of books for HESI. So you can definitely check that out. You can also go on Amazon if you search for HESI A2, right, which is the version of the test we use, right? I'm sure you can find all kinds of books and apps out there. Okay. Khan Academy is also a good app a lot of people use as well for math. So, okay. Again, calculator use. The great news about the HESI that gives a lot of people relief is that you can use a calculator for every single question. Every single question. So that's a wonderful thing. Okay. So I had a student a couple years ago. She came to me and said, oh man, that long division on the HESI took me so long. I was there for hours and hours. I'm like, you're doing long division on the HESI? She says, yeah. I said, did you know there's a calculator? There is, right? And so she didn't know that there was a calculator that you can use, okay? So on the HESI itself, there's a calculator icon on the screen, okay? And so you want to try to click that icon, okay, and use that calculator all the time, okay? There's no reason to do math longhand. Now, I know some people like to do that, so fine, more power to you. If you like to do long division or you like to do long multiplication, good for you. Good, that's wonderful, and I'm very happy about that. But there is, if you have a tool, use the tool, right? No one ever in the nursing field is ever going to expect you to do math without a calculator, right? Lab coats have pockets to hold your calculator, right? And then the other pocket is for the PDR, right? For the drug reference, okay? It's normal, okay? So please use your calculator, okay? Use your scrap paper too, okay? But use your calculator to help, okay? And again, you have to use the calculator on the screen. So it is a little bit annoying to use. It's a 4-function calculator, okay? So it means it adds, subtracts, multiplies, and divides. But, it is there. Use it, okay? Okay, so the calculator, and again, you have to use the mouse when you use the calculator, not the keyboard, which I also found that very annoying. But it's how the test is made, okay? All right, so topics that are covered in the math section, and let's get to the actual topic, right, is basic operations. So adding, subtracting, multiplying, dividing, easy. Order of operations, fractions, decimals, percents, ratios and proportions, unit conversions, word problems, and solving 1- and 2-step equations, okay? There's no advanced algebra, no geometry, no statistics, okay? Nothing really complicated. This test is basic to make sure you understand the math that you will use in the medical field, okay? And for most of us, that's all we need, okay? However, it does assume you have some basic knowledge about these things too, and we're going to go over that as we go through the workshop. Okay. Generally, the purpose of the HESI Prep workshop is to help you become familiar with the test, okay, to go over test-taking strategies, to expose you to different types of questions, and to identify where you need to practice, okay? Now, when we do this workshop in person, it normally takes an hour and a half. Oops, sorry. It usually takes an hour and a half, but, depending on, we're going to see how long it takes on the video. I'm thinking about an hour, 45 minutes to an hour. And again, if you have any questions, I'll give you my email at the end of the video if you have more specific questions. Okay. All right. So let's begin. So let's look here. So this is what I would call the student copy of the workshop. This is what I would normally hand out in a printed form in an in-person workshop. And it basically is just a big list of questions that we're going to go over together. Okay. So when I look at this first question here, and I'll make it a little bigger for you. Here. Okay. So number one here is now I'm not giving you adding, subtracting, or multiplication because I think you can't do it on the calculator. I'm more giving you these two questions here to give you to think about your A, B, C, D choices, right? Your multiple choice questions and how you approach them. A lot of times you can approach a multiple choice question and you don't actually have to do the math to get the right answer, right? So for example, with number one, 32 minus 4 is 28. Which answer is closest to number 28, right, is B, right? So this answer here, right, is 27.53 is the closest answer, right, to 28. I didn't have to actually do the subtraction out. I didn't have to use the calculator to do it. Okay. You can always check yourself on the calculator, but the idea is that the choices can be very revealing, right? So for example, C is too low, D is too high, A is too low, right? So B must be correct, right? You can do a similar thing with number 2, okay? Now, when you multiply decimals is as many decimals as there are in the problem, right? There's that many decimal places in the answer, okay? So I can eliminate, because there's 3 decimal places in the problem, I know my answer has to have 3 decimal places. So I can eliminate A and I can eliminate C right off the bat, right? So now I'm stuck between B and D, okay? So one way I can look at that is I said, well, if I multiply the last 2 digits, 2 times 4, it's 8. So I know my last digit has to be 8, which tells me that my answer has to be D. And again, you can check that on the calculator if you want, but that's how I would get the answer without actually doing the math out longhand or by calculator. Okay. Again, use the choices to help you. You always have the answer in front of you, right? Use the choices to help you. A lot of times it's helpful to work backwards from the answers too. Okay. Now I didn't give multiple choice for every question on this worksheet because I wanted to save space. But you get the idea that every question that we see, pretty much 90% of the questions will have multiple choice answers on the test. Okay. All right, this number 3, I'm going to move it over here. It's 8 to 10 and x to 100, right? So I just copied. I'm going to move this over here. Move this one over here. And so I just copied. This is like what we call a proportion. Okay, and they're looking, what is the value of x, right? So most people, when they get to the HESI, they may never have seen this type of proportion before. Okay, many people are going to be more familiar with the ones that look like this. Okay, as a set of fractions that are equal to each other. It's the same thing. I'm just going to see if I can make it any bigger. It's the same exact process. Okay. So what you can do is you can cross multiply. So you're going to multiply the diagonals, right? So 10 times x and x times 8 times 100. Okay, so 10 times x is 10x. 8 times 100 is 800. Okay, so that's our new equation. We got rid of the fractions by cross multiplying. And now we can solve for x by dividing by 10. Remember with algebra, and this is what this is, right? It's simple. It's maybe simple algebra, but it's still algebra. Whatever we do on the left side, we have to do on the right side, right? So 10 divided by 10 cancels out. 800 divided by 10 is 80. So x in our case will be equal to 80. Okay, so that's one way you could approach that problem. The other way, you could say, well, 8 times 10, and then 8 times 10 and 10 times 10, right? You can increase that fraction to a higher power, and you're going to get 80 over 100. That's another way to think about it. So some people don't like the x. It makes them nervous. Letters make them nervous. Variables make them nervous. But, that's another way you could think about it as well. Okay, so there's number 3. So our answer would be 80. Okay, so let's look back up here. So we would say what 8 over 10 equals x over 100. X would be 80. Okay. All right, number 4. And again, feel free to go back and rewind the video if you want to go back and look at anything that I've said over again. Okay. Number 4 says a hospital day staff consists of 25 registered nurses, 75 unlicensed assistants, 5 phlebotomists, 6 receptionists and office staff, and 45 physicians. One summer day, the staff was only at 68% strength. How many people were working that day? Okay, so now we have a word problem. Okay, we have a list of staff, and then we have a percentage, and they want to know how many people were working. So our first step here is going to be to add all the staff together. Okay, you can't figure out what percent of the staff are working unless you know how many staff there are, right? So we're going to take here our 25 plus 68, plus 75 plus 5 plus 6 plus 45. We can do that in the calculator if you don't want to, you can add by grouping or you can do it in the calculator. It's 156. Okay. That's our total number of staff. Okay. And then if we multiply 156 times 0.68, right? 0.68 is the same as 68%. That's going to give us 106.08, people at work. We can't leave it at 0.08. So we're going to round it because you can't have 0.08 people, right? So you can't you have to keep people to be whole numbers. And I often see this with some of the SAT students. They'll say, oh, how many classrooms do you need? 2. How many classrooms do you need? 2.5. How many classrooms do you need? 3, right? They don't know how to round, but if you need a whole number, and generally people, places, and things, you want to round them to the whole number. Okay, unless it's something you can easily divide in half, like a pizza, right? Okay. All right, this one here, number 5, it says a farmer raises chickens for eggs and meat. Any chicken that does not lay at least 1 egg a week is moved to the slaughterhouse. Farmer has 765 chickens that can lay 1 egg each day. Each day, 80% of the chickens lay eggs. How many eggs does the farmer collect each day? Okay, so again, you'll notice on the HESI, the word problems tend to have a lot of sentences, a lot of short sentences. They're worded to be a little bit more confusing. I find that you could say everything here in less sentences if you were to rewrite it yourself. But basically, the only thing that matters in this question is there's 765 chickens and 80% of them lay eggs, right? That's all that matters, right? The rest of the story doesn't matter, okay? But what we're going to want to do here is we're going to take 765 and multiply it by 80%, okay? And we're going to get 612, right? The other way some people like to do percents is they can use a proportion. So you take your 80 over 100. I'll do it on the other side here, so I can type the fractions. So you're going to take you're going to take 80 over 100 equal to x over 765, right? And the rule is you put your percent over 100, right? Percent over 100, and it equals your part over your whole. Okay, so that's why I put the x on top, because I'm looking for what part of the chickens lay eggs, right? Out of a total or a whole of 765. Okay, and again, you'll do the whole thing. It's going to be a 100x equals 80 times 765, which is 61,200. Decimal or by using a proportion, you're going to get the same answer. Okay, and again, use your calculator as much as you can. Okay. All right, number 6. Traditionally, especially a lot of people don't like, but I think a lot of people don't like it is because they don't know the conversions. Okay, so the HESI expects you to know some basic unit conversions before you take the test. Okay, and here's the sheet here. These are the conversions you need to know. Okay, so inches, feet, yards, miles. Okay, and also how to get it into centimeters. Right, volume is teaspoons, tablespoons, ounces, cups, pints, quarts, gallons. Okay, weight, you have ounces to pounds and pounds to tons and pounds to kilograms. Temperature, metric system, and time. Okay, and the order of operations. I put that on there for people, just so that they remember. Okay. Now there are other conversion sheets out there. There are other conversion factors out there. Okay. I mean, some of the ones in the books are 2 or 3 pages long. You don't need to know every single conversion to get to the answer. Okay. With everything that's here, you can get to the other units. Okay. There's nothing you can't do with these. Okay. And using proportions or using dimensional analysis. Okay. And these are on Quizlet as well. So if you search on Quizlet HESI conversions, I posted all of these on there. You can check those out. Okay. That's Quizlet, Quizlet, Quizlet. And if you search for HESI A2, you'll find my conversion sheets on there. Okay. But you need to know those. I would suggest memorizing all of these. Take one box at a time, one section at a time. Memorize them. Okay. You might want to write all them out on your scrap paper before you begin. Okay. So we begin with this question. It says a teacher's aide is preparing a snack for the class. In order to prepare the powdered drink, the aide must convert the directions to metric measurements. The directions say dilute contents of package in 2 quarts of water. The aide's measuring device only measures in liters. How many liters of water should be used? Enter numeric value only, round to the nearest tenth if necessary. Okay, so this is one of those questions where you'd have to write in the answer. So I'll put it over here. So we start with what we know. Okay, and this is called dimensional analysis. That's the way I like to do conversions. There are other ways. Okay, but this is the way I like to do it. So start with what you know. So we have, or what you're given, 2 quarts, and multiply by what you know, the conversion factors. So for example, I know that 1 quart is equal to, is equal to 2 pints, right? Right, I'm gonna put the quart there. So, right, so I know that 1 quart is equal to 2 pints, okay? Because they're equal, it's like multiplying by 1. That's why you're allowed to do it. And what ends up happening is the quarts cancel with the quarts, and then you're left with pints. And then you just keep doing this until you get to the unit that you want. So I know that, for example, 1 pint is equal to 2 cups. Okay, so cancels the pints. Now I have cups. I also know that 1 cup is equal to 8 fluid ounces. Okay, cancels the cups. Now I have ounces. I also know, and I made this one really long on purpose, that 1 fluid ounce is equal to 30 milliliters, right? Okay, so now I'm in the metric system. That's good. And then I also know that 1 liter is equal to 1,000 milliliters. So notice all my diagonals cancel. Quarts cancels with quarts, pints with pints, cups with cups, ounces with ounces, milliliters with milliliters, and I'm left with liters. Okay, that's what the question is asking for. And then you just multiply all the tops, 2 times 2 times 2 times 8 times 30 times 1. You multiply all the bottoms, 1 times 1 times 1 times 1 times 1,000. And then you divide it out. And then you round it because they told us to round to the nearest tenth. So I have 1.9 liters, and that's my final answer. Okay. So again, dimensional analysis, you multiply by your conversion factors, memorize them all. Okay. The good thing about this is you don't have to think about, like, do I multiply or do I divide? Because the way it's set up does the math, does that decision for you, right? So whether you're going bigger or smaller, it's decided, so sometimes, notice the conversions by what they are, by what cancels, tells you where it should go. Okay. Again, tops and bottoms cancel, and what you're left with is usually the thing on top. Okay. Again, very common way of doing conversions. If you, search on YouTube, for dimensional analysis, you'll find lots and lots of professors teaching you how to do that. Okay. All right, these next 3 questions are all about fractions, decimals, and percents. So this one here, number 7, is asking us to express 40% as a fraction and a decimal. So I'll do it over here. So 40% as a fraction would be 40 over 100, right? Remember that percent means per 100. And I'm just going to reduce that down to 4 over 10 by canceling the zeros. And I'm going to reduce it by 2. So 4 divided by 2 is 2. 10 divided by 2 is 5. So it's 2/5. And then what would it be as a decimal? Well, 40% as a decimal would be 0.40, right? Now in nursing, we tend not to put the 0 at the end, okay? Because decimals kill people, right? So they say get rid of your ending zeros and always keep your beginning zeros, okay? So trailing zeros, get rid of them. Leading zeros, keep them. Okay, that's a rule in nursing. Again, on the HESI, it doesn't matter, but in nursing, that's what you want to do. Okay, so those of you, when you take pharmacology, that's the rule that they'll teach you. Okay, the next one is 3/8 as a decimal in percent. 3/8, so we just divide that right in our calculator. 3 divided by 8 is going to give us 0.375. That's our decimal. And then to get the percentage, we just multiply by 100, and it'll give us 37.5%. Multiplying by 100 is the same as moving the decimal 2 places to the right. Okay, and then our last one here, 0.24 as a fraction in a percent. Okay, we're just going to, again, put that into our percentage. We just move it to the right 2 places, or multiply by 100 is 24%. And then to get that into a fraction, we put it over 100, because percent means per 100. We reduce it by 2. And then we reduce it by 2 again. And we get 6 over 25. Okay, so that should be our final answer for that one. Okay, being able to convert between fractions, decimals, and percents is an essential skill for nursing. Again, you don't have to be a master of it, but you have to have some basic familiarity with it. You're going to use it again in pharmacology. All right, number 10 says, last night at a certain hospital, 76 babies were born. Of the births, 45% were girls. How many boys were born last night? Okay, so we can do that. So we can say 76 times 45%, or 76 times 0.45, right? So let's do that in our calculator. I'm going to do it up here, but you can see. Can I do it up there? No. So let's do it over here, right? Gives me 34.2, okay? Now the question is, did that answer the question? No, because that's the number of girls. And again, we have to round that to whole numbers, right? That's the number of girls. But the question asks how many boys were born. So what we have to do is subtract 76 minus 34, right, to give me 42 boys. Okay, you know that this 34 will be choice A on that question, right? And then you're going to see, oh, there's a number I got. There's the answer, right? And you're going to click next and you're going to get it wrong. Okay, so a lot of times a question like this, make sure you read what they're asking and ask yourself, did I answer the question? Okay, simple things like this, you know, how many were girls, how many were boys? That's a common type of question. How many were not, right? Just be careful with things like that because that can trick you into getting the wrong answer. Okay, and then, you know, the makers of the test know what wrong answers you're going to get, right? And so they're going to put that 34 on there to try to trick you. So just be extra careful. Okay. By the way, the other way you could do that one is you could just multiply 76 times 55%. And that would also work. Okay. Because if 45% are girls, 55% are boys. Right. So that's another way you could think about it as well. Okay. All right. Number 11 here says, doctor tells the patient to cut back on coffee. The patient usually has 4 8-ounce cups of coffee per day. The doctor told him to cut back by 25%. How many ounces of coffee can the patient consume each day? Okay, so that's, again, a little bit happening there, but basically we have 4 8-ounce cups of coffee. Be careful about numbers written as words. Okay, make sure you read closely. So that's a 4, because sometimes people just like to take the numbers out and then do something. So you have to make sure you read carefully. So it's 4 8-ounce cups. So that's going to be 32 ounces a day. He has to cut back by 25%. So I'm going to multiply that by 0.25, and that's going to give me 8, right? Cut back means subtract. So I'm going to take 32 minus 8, and then it'll give me 24 ounces per day after he reduces by 25%. Okay, so that's going to be how you can do that. Now, there's lots and lots of other ways to do this question. You can make it into a fraction. You could say 25% is 1/4. So take away one of the cups. Now we have 3 cups. 3 times 8, 24. That works too. Okay, be careful that we make sure you answer in the correct units. Some people will say the answer is 3. No, it's 3 cups. But it's 24 ounces. Okay, so just be mindful of that as well. All right, so let's look at this one. Number 12. It says a worker is filling out his timesheet. He worked for 8 hours on Monday, 7 hours and 30 minutes on Tuesday, 8 3/4 hours on Wednesday, 4 hours on Thursday, 8 1/4 hours on Friday. His hourly wage is $14.35. What would be the gross pay for the week? Okay, so to me, the easiest way is to convert all the hours into decimals. So we'll make Monday be 8, right? That's easy. Tuesday, 7 hours and 30 minutes. So that's going to be 7.5 hours for Tuesday. Okay. 30 minutes is half an hour, and half an hour is 0.5. It's not 0.3. Okay, so 0.5, 7.5 hours. All right, then Wednesday is going to be 8.75. Okay, to make a fraction into a decimal, you just divide it, put that right in the calculator. 3 divided by 4, 0.75. Okay, Wednesday is going to be 4. Thursday is going to be 4, and then Friday is going to be 8.25. Okay, so 8.25, 1/4, 1 divided by 4 is 0.25. Okay, all right, so we're going to add up all the hours. Again, you can put that right in the calculator. It's going to give you 36.5 hours. And then you just multiply it by the rate, 14.35. Okay, and then you're going to get his final wage, which I think is, let's do it up in the calculator here. So 36.5 times 14.35, I think, is 523.775. So we can put that here. But we have to round it because it's money to the nearest cent. So we'll round that to 78 cents. Okay, so $523.78 is how much the gross pay for the week would be. Okay, so again, we add up all the hours and you multiply by the wage. Be careful about mixed units. The HESI likes to do this. So again, watch out for hours and minutes, right? Watch out for fractions, make them all decimals. That's the easiest way to deal with a situation like this. Okay. All right, number 13. So this one is, now we get a little bit of evaluation with algebra, with variables, with algebra. Okay. So you have to know a little bit about order of operations here, but so they're asking us to evaluate 2x squared minus 3xy minus 2y squared plus 10 when x is 2 and y is negative 3. So wherever we see x, we're going to put in 2. Okay. Minus, and wherever we see y, we're going to put in negative 3. Now be careful that you don't lose the negatives because they make a difference. Okay, and a lot of people either misread or don't see the negative there, but it is there. Okay, so just be careful of that on the test as well. Okay, so 2 times 2 squared. Well, 2 squared is 4, right? And then this one here, I'm going to multiply 3 times 2, but you can do it, you can multiply in any order there, but I like to go left to right because I think that's the better way for me. And then 2 times negative 3 squared. Negative 3 squared is positive 9. Okay, remember when you multiply 2 negatives to become positive, right? So negative 3 times negative 3 is positive 9, and then plus 10. Notice how I write it out every step, right? Okay, now I'm going to multiply. So 2 times 4 is 8. Negative 6 times negative 3 is positive 18. Negative 2 times positive 9 is negative 18, and then plus 10. Okay, now be careful with your positives and negatives. If that confuses you, go onto YouTube and look up the rules for positives and negatives. If you forgot what those are or you need a refresher, you can go onto Khan Academy, go onto YouTube to look for practice on those. You might search for integer operations. Okay, so that'd be something you can look for, and that'll give you a good overview of how to add, subtract, multiply, and divide with positives and negatives. Okay, and then 8 plus 18 minus 18 plus 10 should be 18. I'm kind of crazy. I put 3 18s in the same problem, but it's how it works. So the answer should be 18 there. Okay. All right. This next one here these are equations. So I'm going to type these on this other side here. So 2x minus 3. So 2x minus 3 equals 17. Okay. So the goal here is to find a value for x that makes the equation true. Okay. So 2x minus 3 equals 17. So that's going to be, I'm going to add 3 to both sides. Right? Remember, whatever you do on one side, you do to the other. Right? So it's going to be 2x equals 20. And then I'm going to divide both sides by 2. So 2x divided by 2 equals 20 divided by 2. And so that's going to give me x equals 10. You can always check these, right, by plugging in 10 into the original equation, right? Right? And so that gives you a way that you can't get these wrong if you check your answers. Okay? Worst comes to worst, when you're taking the test, try all 4 choices into the equation and see which one gives you a right answer. Okay? So try A, try B, try C, try D, and see which one works. Another trick I use for when you're testing all the answers is start in the middle, and if it's too high, go lower, and if it's too low, go higher, because a lot of times choices are listed small to large, in multiple choice tests. So that's one way you could try it as well. Okay. Our next equation is 3 minus 4x equals 27. So 3 minus 4x equals 27. So again, we're going to move the 3 to the other side. So 3 minus 3 minus 4x equals 27 minus 3. Right? Negative 4x equals 24. We're going to divide by negative 4. So negative 4x divided by negative 4 equals 24 divided by negative 4. Okay? And so my x is going to equal, and 24 divided by negative 4 is negative 6. Okay? So again, that's how you would do that one. Don't let that negative get lost here, right? Sometimes people lose that. And again, you can check your answer in the original if you want to. Okay? All right. Our third equation is 2 minus the quantity x minus 4 equals 8. So let's try that. So 2 minus the quantity x minus 4 equals 8. Okay, so I put that there because I want to make sure you understand how to distribute. So when there's something in front of a parentheses like this, you have to distribute that to the entire parentheses. So it's going to be 2 minus x minus negative 4 equals 8. Okay, and then so it's going to be 2 minus x plus 4, right? Because 2 minuses make a plus. I'm going to combine the 2 and the 4 together. So it's going to be 6 minus x equals 8. I'm going to subtract 6 from both sides. So 6 minus 6 is 0. So we're going to get negative x, and 8 minus 6 is 2. Now, I'm not solving for negative x. I'm solving for positive x, right? So I have to move that negative sign to the other side. Okay, so I can do that by multiplying by negative 1 or dividing by negative 1, however you want to think about it. And that'll give me x equals negative 2. Okay, so we distributed our minus sign, right, to both things inside the parentheses. 2 minuses made a plus 4, right? I combine the 2 and the 4 together to make 6. 6 minus x equals 8. I move the 6 to the other side, and then I move the negative to the other side. And that gave us x equals negative 2. And again, you can check that by plugging negative 2 into the original equation. It should give you a true answer. All right. And then our last equation, D, is 2 times 3x minus 4 equals 6x minus 8. Okay, so 2 times the parentheses 3x minus 4 equals 6x minus 8. Okay, so I'm going to distribute the 2. So 2 times 3x is 6x. 2 times negative 4 is negative 8. And I get 6x minus 8 equals 6x minus 8. Well, right there, that should tell you that this is a strange problem, right? Because they're exactly the same. And if you go further, you get 6x equals 6x, or you get 0 equals 0, or you get x equals x. You get something that's true all the time, right? It's always true, right? Always true. So that means that x is going to be equal to all real numbers, right? The symbols keep coming up. So it says x is equal to all real numbers, right? Whenever you get something equal to itself, x is all real numbers. Now you might see that on the HESI, it might say how many solutions, right? Does it have, right? So A, 1, B, 2, 3, C, more than 2, D, it cannot be determined, right? Right, so which one should it be? It should be C, more than 2 solutions, right? And so, you might see something like that. If it gets something that's equal to itself, it's always true. That means that x could be anything. If you plug in 1 for x, it works. If you plug in 2 for x, it works. If you plug in 3 for x, it works. Okay? So that's a way you might see that on the HESI. Again, not something you'll see every time, but it's something you might see. Okay? All right, so let's look at this. These next questions here are dealing with order of operations. So The first one is, what is it? 15 minus 8 divided by 4 times 3. So 15 minus 8 divided by 4 times 3. And I know that this program wrote it as a division, as a fraction, which is fine because it's the same thing. So we do the division first. So 8 divided by 4 is 2. And then 15, 2 times 3 is 6. And so that gives us 9. That's the final answer here. Okay. So 15 minus 8 divided by 4, 8 divided by 4 is 2. And then we do the 2 times 3, right? And then we subtract. Because remember, the order of operations is what we call PEMDAS, or PEDMAS, or BODMAS. It's all the same thing, right? It's parentheses, exponents, right? Multiplication, division, right? Division, let's see. No division sign, of course. Okay, well, whatever. Division, right? And then addition and subtraction. Right? So that's, I may have to do, let me do this a different way. So something like this. So multiplication and division, addition and subtraction. I put them together on purpose because when you do multiplication and division, you do them left to right. And when you do addition and subtraction, you do left to right. Okay, so that's the way that makes our notation all the same, right? So we have to do it in the same way as other mathematicians, or nobody will get the same answer for the same problems, right? Okay, so that's the rule. Okay, so we'll test that in this one. So this one here, 16 minus 10 is 6. 6 plus 4 is 10. And then 10 minus 13 is negative 3. Right, so you literally go across. So 16 minus 10 is 4. 16 minus 10 is 6. Plus 4 is 10. Minus 13 is negative 3. Okay, so you literally just go left to right because it's all adding and subtracting. Okay, this one here, I'm going to do it over here. So it's 13 minus 2 times 4. Over 2 to the 3rd power plus 1. So it's going to be, you just do the top and bottom, treat them as if they're separate. So it's going to be 13 minus 8 over 2 to the 3rd power is 8. So it's 2 times 2 times 2 plus 1. So it's going to be 5 over 9. Okay, and that's your final answer. Okay, 5 over 9. Okay, it's okay to get a fraction answer. It's okay to get a negative answer. It's okay to get a decimal answer. They're all equally likely to be right. Okay. So again, you just do the order of operations. Treat the top and the bottom of the fraction as if they're in parentheses. Okay, and remember exponents, 2 times 2 times 2, right? Not 2 times 3, 2 times 2 times 2. Okay. All right. Let's look over here. And this one, now the next ones here are fractions. So it's 2 2/5 plus 3 2/3. 2 2/5 plus 3 2/3. Okay. So there's 2 ways you can do it, and either way is fine. You can either make them improper, or you can treat them as mixed numbers. Both ways work fine, but both ways you have to get a common denominator. Okay. So the common denominator here is 15. Okay, so I'm going to multiply the top and the bottom of 2/5 by 3. So it's going to be 6 over 15. Okay, so what I'm doing here is multiplying this by 3 and this by 3. Okay, to give me 6 over 15. And then what I'm doing here, to get this to be 15, I'm going to multiply this by 5 and this by 5. Whatever you do on the top, you got to do on the bottom as well. Okay. The goal is when you add and subtract fractions, you have to have the same denominator. Okay, so now I have 2 and 6/15 plus 3 and 10/15, which is going to give me 5 and 16/15. And 16/15 is improper. So I say to myself, how many times does 15 go into 16 is 1, which will make that 5 into a 6. And how many are left over? 1 out of 15. So that's one way you could do it. And then the other way would be to make them improper first. So you do 2 times 5, 10, plus 2, 12 over 5, plus 3 times 3, 9, plus 2, 11 over 3. And then you basically cross multiply, so it's going to be 36 plus 55 over 15, which would be 91 over 15, which, if you divide it out, is going to be 6 and 1 over 15. So both methods work fine. Some people like to use improper fractions. Some people like to use mixed numbers. Both are okay. All right. Let's look at our next one. Our next one here is 5 1/4 minus 3 3/5. So 5 1/4 minus 3 3/5. So again, I would make these improper. So it'd be 21 over 4 minus 18 over 5, right? Again, 5 times 4, 20, plus 1, 21, 3 times 5, 15, plus 3, 18. And then I would cross multiply those to get the numerator. So 5 times 21 is 105, minus 4 times 18 is 72. And then 4 times 5, 20 for the bottom. And that's going to give us 33 over 20. And how many 20s fit into 33 is 1, with 13 left over. And again, both of those methods work. You can use the other method as well. I think this way is easier for both of them actually, but either way is okay. All right, and then this next one is 2/3 times 4 1/4 times 3/17. So 2 over 3 times 4 1/4 times 3 over 17. So in multiplication, you don't have to have the same denominator, but they all have to be improper. So 4 times 4 is 16, plus 1 is 17, right, over 4, and then 3 over 17. Now you can just multiply all the tops and all the bottoms, and that will be fine. And you'll get something like this that you have to reduce, which is fine. You can also cancel though, right? So you can cancel the 3 and the 3, and the 17 and the 17, and the 2 and the 4. And that makes your life a little easier, right? But some people like to cancel, some don't, but it's fine by me. However you do it, however you decide to do it is fine, as long as you get the right answer, right? So, but yeah, so basically either way, whether you end up reducing or canceling, you get the same answer. Should be 1/2. Okay. And then this last one is 4 1/2 divided by 5 9ths. Okay, so it's 4 1/2, and then divided by 5 over 9, right? So again, you're going to be improper. So 4 times 2 is 8, plus 1, 9 over 2, divided by 5 over 9. Now with division, we keep the first one the same. We change the sign to multiply, and we flip the second one over. Okay, we use the reciprocal, right? That's how you do division with fractions. You keep, you change, you flip. Okay, always. Okay, so then we just multiply. 9 times 9 is 81. 2 times 5 is 10. And then we say how many 10s fit in 81 is 8. And then 1 left over. Okay, so 8 1/10. Okay, so keep, change, flip. All right, and then these last ones here. This is AM and PM time. Sometimes we call that military time. Okay, so they want us to go back to military time. My 2 tips for doing this is to set your cell phone to military time, or set your watch to military time, and you'll be used to it in no time. About half the world tells time, with the, like this. And then the other half of the world tells time like this. And so being familiar with both is a good thing. In the medical field, it's always in 24-hour time or military time. Okay. Generally, what you do is you take 12 away from the hours or add 12 to the hours to go the other way. So like 23:59, right, would be 11:59 p.m., right? 20 hours or 2000 hours would be 8 p.m., right? Just subtracting 12 from the hours. This would be 12 p.m. This would be 12 a.m. or midnight, right? And this would be 3:45 p.m. Okay, so if it's after 12, you just subtract 12 from the hours. If it's before 12, you keep it the same. Okay, so like this one, for example, is before noon. So that's just going to be 11:30. Midnight is going to be 00:00. Okay, that's when the day restarts, right? So it's at 0. Noon is 1200. 2:30 p.m. is 14:30, right? Adding 12 to the hours, right? And then 11 p.m. is 2300. Okay. So again, military time, just set your cell phone to military time and you'll be used to it. You can always draw the clock on your scrap paper like we did here, if that helps you. Okay. Everything in the military, everything in the medical field uses this type of time. Okay. So all your notes, all your charts will all have military time on them. Okay. All right. And then this last one here is dealing with temperature conversions. Okay. So I gave you on this sheet here the temperature conversion formulas. So Fahrenheit equals 1.8 Celsius plus 32, or Celsius equals Fahrenheit minus 32 over 1.8. So we're going to use those to convert 50 Celsius to Fahrenheit. So we're going to say 1.8 times 50 plus 32. Okay, 1.8 times 50. So that's going to be, let's see. So I think it's going to be, let's do it on my calculator, right? Well, actually, it's not 50 Celsius, right? It's 50 Fahrenheit to Celsius. So I think I wrote that backwards, which is why I'm confused. It's 50 Fahrenheit to Celsius. Okay, so it's going to be, it's going to be 50 minus 32, which is 18, divided by 1.8, which would be 10. Okay. So again, if you have Fahrenheit to go to Celsius, you have Fahrenheit to go to Celsius, you're going to subtract 32, divide by 1.8. And then the other one, to go the other way, we have 41 Celsius to Fahrenheit. We're going to multiply 1.8 times 41 and then add 32. Okay, so 1.8 times 41 is 73.8 plus 32 is 105.8. Okay, Celsius. Sorry, Fahrenheit. Okay, so again, if temperature confuses you, memorize the formulas. They don't give them to you. You have to memorize those. There's only 2. You only need to know it for the HESI because they do give it to you in the nursing program. It's good to have a few baseline temperatures that you remember, So like if you know boiling is 100 and 212, if you know freezing is 32 or 0, body temperature is 96.8, 98.6 or 37. That helps you with your temperatures. Those are good things to remember. Okay. But that's pretty much it. That's as hard as the math gets on the HESI. I encourage you to practice. Go back in the video if it was too fast or if you didn't understand something. Feel free to, go on YouTube, go on Khan Academy, ask questions. If you get lost or you have a specific question, you can always email me as well. My email is Derosier@ccri.edu. If you lose my email address, you can always look on the Success Center webpage to find me. And again, my name is Ed Derosier. Okay. And it's been a pleasure, giving this workshop for you today. I hope you do well. Best of luck. And if you need help in, anything, again, send me an email. Be happy to work with you. I do one-on-one tutoring for the college and group tutoring for the college. So please don't hesitate to send me an email if you have any questions. And again, I hope you study, practice, take some time to review the materials. It's not hard. You can do it. Thousands and thousands of students have passed the HESI and passed the nursing program. You can do it too. So be encouraged. Good luck. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.